The music was deafening. Helicopters circled above the mansion as photographers screamed for shots of the bride and groom. Under the glittering Los Angeles sun, the wedding of billionaire Alexander Cole and fashion queen Vanessa Hart had officially begun. Gold chandeliers, crystal fountains, champagne that cost more than a car. It was the event of the year. And somewhere among the laughter and flashing cameras stood Emma Grace, wearing a black and white maid uniform, her hair tied neatly, her smile trembling. No one noticed her. No one ever did. She moved quietly through the crowd, holding a tray of wine glasses, her steps careful, her breathing shallow. Her uniform hid what her apron could not conceal anymore, a small, rounded belly. 5 months? Each toast to the perfect couple felt like a knife twisting deeper inside her. Just a few months ago, Alexander had whispered promises in her ear, the same man now kissing another woman before a crowd of hundreds. "I'll never leave you," he had said, and yet here she was, serving drinks at his wedding. "Move faster," barked the head coordinator. Emma nodded weakly, forcing herself to keep moving. The lights blinded her, the laughter grew louder, and every smile on Vanessa's face burned like fire. Emma's legs shook as she carried another tray toward the guests. She could feel the baby kick. She whispered, "It's okay. Sweetheart, Mama's here." Then her eyes lifted. Across the grand ballroom, Alexander turned his head. Their gazes collided only for a heartbeat, but it was enough. His face stiffened. He looked away immediately, pretending she didn't exist. The music swelled. The applause roared, and Emma realized the truth that crushed her. In this palace of diamonds, she was nothing more than a shadow. The ballroom glittered like a dream that had forgotten mercy. Every chandelier sparkled, every camera flashed, every laugh from the guests sounded like music played over someone else's heartbreak. Emma Grace stood at the drink counter, holding a silver tray tight enough for her knuckles to turn white. Her body trembled slightly, her lips pressed together. She wasn't supposed to be here. She had begged for this shift, convinced herself she could handle it. But nothing could have prepared her for seeing him again. Across the golden crowd, Alexander Cole looked every inch the man the magazines adored. The perfect tuxedo, the diamond cufflinks, the confident grin that sold billions in charity photos. He raised his glass, thanking the guests, charming them effortlessly. But then his eyes shifted, scanning the room, and they landed on her. It lasted 1 second. Maybe less, yet time stopped. Emma's breath caught in her throat as their eyes locked. He froze too, the same look she once loved warm. Guilty. Human flickered in his face, then vanished. He looked away sharply, turning back to his guests with a forced laugh. But Vanessa Hart saw it. The bride's smile faltered. She had seen his eyes change. She followed the line of his gaze, and her attention fell on the slim young maid in the corner, her stomach gently rounded beneath her uniform. Vanessa's chest tightened. Something in her instinct whispered that this wasn't just a maid. She leaned closer to her groom, her voice soft but icy. "Who's that girl over there?" Alexander blinked, pretending confusion. "Which one?" "The one by the bar, the one staring at you." He laughed, low and nervous. "She's just part of the staff." "Sweetheart." Probably nervous around all the cameras. Vanessa's lips curled into a polite smile for the guests still watching her. But her eyes told a different story. Suspicion had already taken root. She watched the maid again, longer this time. Emma noticed the gaze and quickly turned away, her pulse racing. The music swelled. The crowd cheered as the couple prepared for their first dance. Emma set down her tray and slipped quietly through a side door, heart pounding against her ribs. Outside, the corridor was cold and quiet. The noise from the ballroom faded behind the marble walls. She pressed a hand to her chest, trying to breathe, but the air felt thick, heavy with memories she'd buried. The scent of his cologne, the sound of his laugh, the promises whispered in the dark. She leaned against the wall, her eyes wet. "You said you'd never leave me," she whispered to no one. "You said you'd protect us." A faint kick from inside her belly made her flinch. She smiled weakly, rubbing her stomach. "It's okay, little one." "I'm okay." But she wasn't. Her throat burned. Her heart trembled. The noise of the celebration drifted faintly through the hallway, a cruel reminder that her love story had become someone else's fairy tale. Inside the ballroom, Vanessa couldn't focus. She kept glancing toward the doorway Emma had disappeared through. Something about that woman's face haunted her. She turned again to Alexander, whispering sharply under her breath, "She keeps looking at you." "Why?" Alexander's jaw tightened. "Vanessa, let it go." "It's your wedding day. It's our wedding day," she corrected, So, why does that girl look like she's about to cry? His silence was louder than denial. Vanessa's expression hardened. She forced another perfect smile as the cameras flashed again, but the unease inside her was growing like a storm she couldn't stop. Out in the corridor, Emma straightened her back. She wiped her tears and adjusted her apron. She told herself to be strong, to finish the job and disappear, but deep down, she knew something had already begun to break. Her eyes lifted once more toward the ballroom door. Through the glass panel, she could see Alexander holding Vanessa's hand as they spun under the golden lights. The crowd clapped. Reporters shouted, and in that glittering chaos, Emma Grace realized the cruel truth. The man who had promised her forever couldn't even look her in the eye. The wedding was peaking. The orchestra played louder, cameras flashed faster, and the smell of champagne mixed with roses filled the air. Every eye was on the dazzling couple in the center of the ballroom. No one noticed the maid returning through the side door. Carrying a silver tray trembling in her hands, Emma Grace had wiped her tears, forced her breathing to slow, and told herself she would finish the shift quietly, just one more round. Then she could leave. But fate had already made its decision. She walked carefully toward the front row where the elite guests sat. Her steps echoed softly on the marble floor. The tray in her hands felt heavier with every heartbeat. As she reached Vanessa Hart, the bride turned slightly, laughing with her friends, her white gown glowing under the chandeliers. Emma bowed her head and whispered, "Champagne." "Ma'am." The glass slipped. A small splash of red wine hit the edge of Vanessa's pristine gown. The color spread like blood on snow. The music stumbled, then stopped. The laughter froze. Vanessa looked down slowly. Her lips parted. The entire room seemed to hold its breath. "You," she said coldly. "Do you know how much this dress costs?" Emma's lips trembled. "I am so sorry." "Ma'am, it was an accident." Before the words could finish, a sharp crack filled the room. Vanessa's hand met Emma's cheek in a brutal slap. The sound echoed through the hall like a gunshot. The tray crashed to the ground, glasses shattering, wine spilling across the white floor. Emma stumbled, clutching her face, her eyes wide in disbelief. "This is my wedding day," Vanessa shouted. "How dare you ruin it?" Hundreds of guests stared. Some gasped. Some began recording with their phones. Others just watched in horrified fascination. Emma stood still for a long second. Her hand dropped slowly from her burning cheek. Her whole body shook, not from pain, but from something deeper, darker. She looked up. Her voice was shaking but strong enough to reach every corner of the hall. "This child," she began. Her eyes locked on Alexander. "This child in my belly belongs to your husband." The room exploded. Gasps filled the air. Glasses dropped. The crowd erupted into whispers. "What did she say? Did you hear that? Oh my God." Vanessa froze, her hands still raised in midair. "What did you just say?" Emma's tears streamed down her face, but her voice grew louder. "I said this baby is his. He left me when I told him I was pregnant. And now he stands here, marrying you like I never existed?" Alexander's face drained of color. The confident billionaire looked like a man caught between two worlds collapsing at once. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. Vanessa turned to him, eyes blazing. "Tell me she's lying. Tell me." He couldn't. His silence screamed louder than any confession. The guests began to murmur again, some covering their mouths, others raising their phones higher. A reporter whispered to her cameraman, "Keep recording. Don't you dare stop." Vanessa's perfect image cracked. Her face twisted in disbelief and fury. She turned back to Emma, her voice shaking with rage. "You filthy liar. You think you can humiliate me on my wedding day?" Emma's voice cracked too, but she didn't stop. "He used me. He promised me love, safety, a family. Then he disappeared. I worked here pregnant, invisible. While he planned this fairy tale, the crowd was no longer cheering. The wedding of the year had turned into a live scandal. Vanessa screamed, "Security!" But no one moved. Even the guards were frozen. Alexander finally stepped forward, his face pale. "Emma, please." She stepped back, shaking her head. "Don't you dare speak to me now." Her voice trembled, but her eyes blazed with truth. "You may have money, but you can't buy silence. Not anymore." The room went deathly quiet. Only the sound of camera shutters filled the space. Emma's chest rose and fell rapidly. She placed a hand on her stomach. Tears falling freely now. "This baby will know the truth," she whispered. Vanessa's hand trembled. Her white gown shimmered under the lights, now stained with red. And in that moment, every illusion shattered. The guests stared in stunned silence as the bride stood frozen, and the billionaire groom stood speechless, facing the woman who had just destroyed his empire with a single sentence. The ballroom that once glowed with laughter now trembled under the weight of silence. No one moved. No one breathed. Hundreds of eyes shifted between the bride, the groom, and the maid who had just shattered their perfect world. The cameras were still recording. The air smelled of spilled wine and shock. Vanessa's heart stood rigid, her white gown trembling with every breath. She turned toward her new husband, her voice sharp and breaking. "Tell them she's lying. Alexander? Tell them." Alexander Cole opened his mouth, but no sound came out. His throat was dry, his heart pounding like a drum of guilt. The man who once commanded boardrooms, who could silence reporters with a smile, now stood frozen. Vanessa stepped closer, her voice shaking. "Say something. Deny it. Deny it." But he didn't. His silence was the answer the world had been waiting for. The crowd erupted into whispers. "Oh my God. It's true. He got the maid pregnant. I can't believe this." Phones lifted higher. Flashes went off like lightning. Vanessa's body stiffened as if her spine had turned to glass. Her trembling hands clutched the fabric of her gown. "You humiliated me," she said, her voice breaking. "You betrayed me in front of an entire nation." Tears spilled down her face, streaking her perfect makeup. The cameras caught every moment, every word, every crack in her voice. Emma stood still, her hand pressed to her stomach. Her eyes glistened with pain but not regret. "He said he loved me," she said quietly. "He said I was different. He said we were a family." Her voice rose as the words left her trembling lips. "But when I told him I was pregnant, he vanished. No calls, no messages, just silence." A gasp rippled through the guests. Even the orchestra members put down their instruments. The fairy tale had turned into a courtroom, and Alexander was the man on trial. Vanessa looked at him as if seeing him for the first time. "All those nights you told me you were working late," she whispered. "Was it her? Were you with her while I was planning our future?" He tried to step closer. "Vanessa, please." She stepped back sharply, her eyes red and wild. "Don't touch me." Emma's legs weakened, her breathing uneven. The stress, the fear, the humiliation pressed down on her like a storm. She swayed on her feet. "I never wanted to ruin your day," she whispered. "I just couldn't take the lies anymore." Vanessa turned toward her again, her anger trembling into heartbreak. "Why did you wait until now?" "Because you slapped me," Emma said, tears streaming, "and I realized he slapped me first." With his silence, the room fell completely still again. The chandeliers flickered. Somewhere in the distance, a glass dropped and shattered. Alexander looked at Emma, his voice small, broken. "I never meant for this to happen." Her response came like a blade, but it did. Her vision blurred, her chest tightened. The sound of murmuring faded into an echo. Emma reached for the table beside her, but her hand missed. Her knees buckled. The last thing she saw before the world went dark was Vanessa's shocked face and Alexander's outstretched hand reaching toward her. She collapsed. Gasps filled the air again. A woman screamed. Two maids rushed forward, catching Emma's limp body before she hit the floor. "She's fainted." Someone shouted, "Call a doctor." Vanessa stood frozen, tears falling freely now. Alexander dropped to his knees beside Emma, his hands trembling. "Emma, please, open your eyes." No response. Only the sound of chaos rising, guests backing away, the press capturing every second. And there, in the center of the grand hall, surrounded by shattered glass, spilled wine, and broken promises, Alexander Cole knelt on the marble floor beside the unconscious woman he once abandoned. His kingdom of luxury and pride had crumbled in minutes. He wasn't a billionaire anymore. He wasn't a hero or a husband. He was just a man stripped bare, staring at the ruin of everything he had built. The wedding of the century was over. The king had lost his crown. By morning, the video had reached every corner of the internet. The billionaire's secret baby scandal. The headline flashed across every major news site. Talk shows replayed the footage on loop. The slap, the confession, the scream, the silence. Millions watched it, mouths open, as the fairy tale wedding of Alexander Cole and Vanessa Hart turned into a public nightmare. Clips flooded TikTok, Twitter, and TV. One reporter whispered, "This is bigger than politics." Another said, "The country's golden couple just exploded." Hashtags trended worldwide. Cole scandal and Maid with the baby dominated every feed. Inside her family mansion, Vanessa's father slammed his fist on the table. "We are canceling everything," he shouted. "No daughter of mine will stay married to that man." Within hours, the Hart family's lawyer issued a statement. The wedding was nullified. The relationship terminated. All financial ties severed. Sponsors followed fast. Fashion brands deleted Alexander's face from their ads. The magazine covers vanished overnight. Stocks dipped. His reputation collapsed in real time. Meanwhile, paparazzi camped outside his gate, shouting questions, flashing lights through the windows. Alexander didn't come out. He sat in silence on the marble floor of his study, the world crumbling around him. On his phone, the video played again and again. Emma's voice echoed in his head. "This baby in my belly belongs to your husband." Then the crowd, the chaos, Vanessa's tears, the sound of Emma hitting the floor. His assistant burst into the room, sweating. "Sir, they're asking for a statement. The press wants your response?" Alexander looked up, his eyes hollow. "What can I possibly say?" Outside, the noise grew louder. Protesters gathered, holding signs, accountability for power, no more lies from the rich. Every network demanded an interview. But Alexander didn't face the cameras. Instead, he left the mansion quietly that afternoon, slipping through the back door with no security. He drove straight to the small clinic on the edge of the city. Inside, Emma lay in a hospital bed, pale but conscious. The nurse whispered, "She's stable now. The baby is fine." He stepped in slowly. The sight of her hit him like a storm. She turned her head weakly and saw him. Her eyes darkened, but she didn't speak. He knelt beside the bed, the billionaire the world once worshipped now on his knees before the woman he betrayed. "I was afraid," he whispered. "Afraid of losing everything? Afraid of being judged? Afraid of myself? But I was wrong." Her eyes flickered, her lips trembling. "You were afraid?" Her voice was hoarse. "You think fear excuses what you did?" He shook his head. "No, it doesn't. I hurt you. I hurt everyone. And now I'm paying for it." Emma stared at him, the pain in her face sharper than any slap. "You think you're paying now," she said softly. "You lost your name. I lost my peace. You hid behind silence. And that was your first betrayal?" He looked up, tears in his eyes. "Emma, I'm sorry." She turned her face away. "You already hit me once," she said quietly. "Not with your hand, with your silence." The words sliced through him. He bowed his head, unable to speak. Cameras were already waiting outside the hospital, their flashes piercing through the blinds. The world wanted to see him fall, and he already had. Emma closed her eyes, her hand resting gently on her stomach. "You can go now," she said softly. "Your audience is waiting." He stood slowly, his shoulders heavy, his voice a whisper. "I'll face them, but I'll never forget this." As he walked toward the door, the hallway filled with the sound of shouting reporters. The flashlights hit his face, blinding him. And for the first time in his life, Alexander Cole didn't smile for the camera. He looked broken, stripped of his charm, his power, his mask. Behind him, Emma's voice echoed faintly through the corridor. "Some wounds don't need noise to hurt. Sometimes silence is the loudest punishment of all." The empire of Alexander Cole collapsed faster than anyone could imagine. In less than a week, the man once praised as a genius entrepreneur became the face of betrayal. Every news outlet replayed his downfall like a public execution. The title beneath his photo read, "From Billionaire to Broken Man." The board of his company called an emergency meeting. Within hours, he was forced to step down as CEO. His partners withdrew investments. Lawsuits began flooding in. The most devastating came from the Hart family, accusing him of defamation and moral fraud. Even his charity foundation froze its funds, waiting for the storm to pass. Cameras camped outside his mansion day and night. Headlines screamed about the scandal. Former friends avoided his calls. His personal assistant quit, whispering, "I can't stay here. It's too much." Inside the mansion, Alexander sat alone in the dark, surrounded by empty whiskey bottles and unanswered emails. The silence was deafening. On his desk, one photo remained upright, a picture of him and Emma from long ago, taken secretly in a park. She was smiling. He wasn't. His phone buzzed again. Reporters wanted a statement. The world wanted his apology. For days, he refused to speak, but one night, he turned on his camera, stared into the lens, and began recording. His face was pale, his eyes hollow. "This is not a press conference," he said softly. "This is a confession." He took a deep breath. I hurt someone who never deserved it. I lied. I ran away. And because of that, I lost everything. But the truth is, I deserve to—" He paused, his voice shaking. "To the woman I wronged. To the child I abandoned before she was even born. I am sorry. I will take responsibility for both, even if they never forgive me." The video lasted 4 minutes. Within an hour, it had 50 million views. Some people called it redemption, others called it desperation. But for the first time, Alexander didn't care what the world thought. Across town, Emma Grace was sitting in a tiny apartment with her best friend Mia Robinson. The walls were faded, the furniture secondhand, but the place felt peaceful. A small radio played softly beside her. Mia was cooking soup, humming under her breath. Emma's belly had grown round and heavy. She sat by the window, sewing a small blue blanket. When the news came on, Mia reached to turn it off. "It's him again." Mia said, "You don't need to see that." But Emma shook her head. "Let it play." The TV showed Alexander's face. Tearful, broken, apologizing. Emma watched silently, her hand resting on her stomach. When the video ended, she whispered, "He looks smaller now." Mia frowned. "Don't feel sorry for him." "I don't," Emma said, "but I can see he's trying." That night, when Emma went to her prenatal appointment, the nurse told her something odd. "All your hospital bills have been paid in advance." By someone named Cole. Emma froze. "He didn't tell me." The nurse smiled kindly. "Some people speak through actions." On her way home, Emma stopped by a small park. She sat on a bench beneath a street lamp, hands on her belly, eyes on the night sky. "He can't undo what he did," she said softly, "but maybe this is how he learns." Back in his mansion, Alexander stood by his window, watching the city lights. He didn't drink. He didn't sleep. He only whispered one thing to himself, over and over, "I will make it right." He sent no messages. He made no calls. He told no one about the hospital payments. For once, his apology was quiet. And somewhere across the city, Emma finally felt peace. She didn't forgive him yet. But for the first time since that night, her heart no longer burned with anger. The storm was still there, but the thunder had faded. What remained was silence. Honest, healing silence. The memory still haunted him. The first time Alexander Cole saw Emma Grace, she was standing by the mansion's marble staircase, clutching a silver tray. She looked nervous, almost invisible among the polished chandeliers and designer suits. He remembered how easy it had been to charm her, how natural the lies had sounded. "You're different." He had told her, "You listen, you care, you make this cold place feel alive." He used to wait until the other staff had gone before calling her upstairs. He would hand her a cup of tea, ask her to sit, ask about her dreams. She always spoke softly, with eyes that believed too quickly, and when he kissed her for the first time, she trembled. He said the words that now burned his soul. "I'll never leave you." But he did. Now, months later, he stood in front of her again, not as her boss, not as a lover, but as a man stripped of everything. She opened the door slowly. Her belly was round beneath a faded cotton dress. "What do you want, Alexander?" His voice was quiet. "I just want to be near my child." Her eyes narrowed. "You think being here for a minute makes you a father?" He shook his head. "No, but I want to learn. I want to try." She crossed her arms. "If you mean that, prove it. Be a father, not a visitor." From that day, he did not speak much. He showed up every weekend with groceries, fresh fruit, vitamins, and sometimes baby clothes wrapped neatly in brown paper. He stayed only long enough to make sure she was okay, then left without expecting thanks. When she went for her next prenatal checkup, he was waiting in the hospital lobby. "I called ahead," he said quietly. "They said you'd be here." Emma looked surprised. "You didn't have to—" "I wanted to," he replied. They sat side by side in the waiting room. The fluorescent lights hummed softly. For a long while, neither spoke. Then, finally, the nurse called her name. Inside the examination room, the doctor smiled. "Let's see how the baby's doing today." Emma lay down carefully as the gel spread cool across her skin. The monitor flickered, showing a tiny flicker of life inside her. The sound filled the room. Thump, 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 thump. It was faint but steady. Alexander froze. His eyes widened, his throat tight. The sound of his child's heartbeat felt like a confession, every beat accusing him, every rhythm reminding him of what he almost destroyed. He moved closer, staring at the screen as if seeing a miracle for the first time. That's really our baby. Emma nodded, her voice soft. Yes, she's real. He swallowed hard. His hand hesitated, then touched hers gently. I don't deserve to be here, he whispered. She didn't pull away. Then earn your place. The doctor smiled knowingly but said nothing. The heartbeat filled the silence again. Thump, thump. Tears slid down Alexander's face. He didn't hide them. For once, the cameras were gone. The money meaningless. The noise of the world replaced by one simple truth. His child was alive. And he almost missed it all. When they left the clinic, the sun was setting. The air smelled of rain and dust. Alexander carried the medical file as if it were made of glass. Outside, Emma paused by the steps. You can walk me home if you want, she said quietly. He nodded, following her slowly. They didn't talk much, but their silence was different now. Not cold, not angry, just human. For the first time, Alexander didn't feel like a billionaire trying to fix a scandal. He felt like a man trying to rebuild a soul. The internet had turned Emma Grace into a symbol. Millions called her the maid who spoke the truth. Clips of her trembling confession played on every platform. Talk shows debated her courage. Women from every corner of the world wrote messages saying she had spoken for them too. For once, the girl who had lived in the shadows became the voice of light. But fame never interested her. While hashtags trended and reporters camped outside, Emma stayed in her small apartment with Mia Robinson, sipping tea, sewing baby clothes, and waiting for her next doctor's visit. Peace had finally returned to her life, soft and fragile like morning sunlight after a storm. Across the city, in a glass penthouse overlooking Beverly Hills, Vanessa Hart watched that same video in silence. She had avoided it for weeks. Now, as Alexander's public apology replayed on her tablet, she felt her hands shake. The man she once loved looked hollow, broken, human. She pressed pause and stared at the reflection in the screen. Her mascara had dried out, her eyes tired. We both looked perfect, she whispered, but we were both living lies. For the first time, she didn't feel hatred toward Emma, only exhaustion. She opened her closet, grabbed a plain dress, and left the apartment without telling her assistant. No makeup, no entourage, no cameras, just truth. That afternoon, Emma heard a soft knock at her door. Mia looked through the peephole and gasped. You won't believe this, she whispered. It's her. Emma froze. Who? Vanessa Hart. The name dropped like a stone in her chest. For a second, Emma considered not opening, but something inside her, something she didn't even understand, made her turn the knob. The door opened. Vanessa stood there in a beige coat, her hair tied neatly, holding a small paper bag. Her eyes were red but calm. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Vanessa said quietly, May I come in? Emma hesitated, then nodded. The room smelled of chamomile and laundry soap. Vanessa looked around, taking in the cracked walls, the tiny table, the baby blanket folded on the chair. It was simple, but it was real. I didn't come to fight, Vanessa began. Her voice trembled slightly. I came to say I'm sorry. Emma blinked. For what? For slapping you, for humiliating you, for seeing you as the problem when the truth was that we were both broken by the same man. Emma's lips parted, but no words came. Vanessa stepped closer, eyes glassy with emotion. He lied to both of us. Emma, the difference is that you had the courage to speak. I stayed silent because I was too proud. Tears filled Emma's eyes. I never wanted to hurt you, she whispered. I just wanted him to face what he did. I know, Vanessa said softly. And now I understand. The two women stood there, the storm of betrayal between them finally gone. There was no anger, only quiet recognition, two hearts wounded by the same truth. Vanessa reached into her bag and placed it gently on the table. It's nothing fancy, she said with a faint smile. Just some things for the baby. And a letter. Emma looked at the bag but didn't touch it. Why are you doing this? Vanessa took a deep breath. Because I spent weeks blaming you, and it only made me emptier. I needed to see the person who had the strength I didn't. You spoke when I was too afraid to. She turned toward the door, then paused. If he really changes, if he truly becomes the man he pretends to be in that apology video, let him be a father. Don't let your pain punish the child. Emma's throat tightened. Thank you, she said quietly. Vanessa nodded once. We both deserve peace. As she walked away, Emma looked at the paper bag on the table. Inside were soft baby clothes and a note written in delicate handwriting. Healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing light when the past offers only darkness. For the first time, Emma smiled. Weeks passed, and Emma Grace began to believe that Alexander Cole truly wanted redemption. Standing before hundreds of women at a conference, her voice trembled yet strong. "I was once invisible," she said, "but in the moment I was humiliated. I found my voice again." The video spread like wildfire, inspiring millions. Then came the day her daughter was born. Tiny cries filled the room as Hope Grace Cole entered the world. Alexander stood beside Emma, holding her hand tightly. No cameras, no luxury, no lies, only truth, love, and the sound of a new beginning. Morning sunlight bathed Los Angeles, glimmering over Emma, Alexander, and little Hope. No press, no glamour, only forgiveness and a quiet new beginning. In that golden light, a single truth remained. We cannot erase the past, but we can rewrite the future with honesty, courage, and love that asks for nothing in return. If this story of redemption, courage, and unconditional love touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful real-life dramas. Join our community to witness stories that remind us all, even after betrayal and pain, truth and forgiveness can still bring light,